All right, I guess I'll start. As you know, I'm Brian Daly. Let's see. RiSE really drew me in because it was an opportunity to engage with the faculty, not just the administration, but the faculty and the instructional faculty, particularly because in my experience before this, I've noticed that institutions such as this have been more instructional faculty focused. And that's clear. As you guys are here in force, you guys have a very strong union and there's no problem with that. However, the student's voice to some degree has been squandered. And we need a voice that can rival yours and can be as strong as yours and can show up as strongly as yours. So that is why I'm here today. And you know, it's been my experience with administration that instructional faculty is the main event on campus, right? Your classes are the money makers. And as we are moving forward with this new funding formula, we know that student success is the new moneymaker. Our achievements are the new moneymakers on campus. And I'm here to work with administration and everyone on campus to help you understand how we can go get this money together. Thank you.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the school year. My name is Hafsa Sayed. I am a double major in political science and economics. I'll be entering in my second year of City College, so I'm excited for that. I'm hoping to work in local politics, maybe in policy, I'm not really sure yet. So what drew me to RiSE is City College is really difficult for me to navigate. The onboarding process for me was really hard, really difficult. You know, things here, you really have to want information in order to find it. Things here are not given easily, and that needs to change. I've talked to a lot of people here who have been here for years, some because they changed their majors, but a lot of them because they were led astray from their original path. You know, they were told to take this class and they were told to do this and, oh, you know, just take a lighter course load, you don't need to take that many units, and now they've been here for 3-4 years and, you know, they're feeling kind of stuck. So I'm really here for them. You know, City College needs to make some adjustments to really make things about the students. Another reason I was drawn to the RiSE project is because I was in the Associated Students, and although I really enjoyed my time there, I was so caught up in my responsibilities as a vice president. I was chairing my own committee, I was making the agendas every week, and I was so caught up in that work, I didn't have extra time to do the stuff that I wanted, which was really community work, joining task forces, and I didn't really feel that impact as much, and RiSE really gave me that ability to be present in the meetings, to really you know, speak up, have people hear my voice, and hear the student experience for what it really is.
Oh, my test, awesome. Whew. Hi everyone, CCSF, how are you? Yeah, thank you, I'm good as well, thanks for asking. My name, as Ms. Simona said, my name is Darzel Oliveros, I'm a student at CCSF, and I'm currently pursuing philosophy. I actually see philosophy as an avenue for me to either go into either business and entrepreneurship or public policy or public service. And what I actually want to do, I know it's such a huge endeavor, it's like way up there, but this is like my long-term dream. I want to make a huge difference, whether that be through in the fields of health or education, whether that be through a product or a service that I do, that's like my main goal. Like before I die, I want to leave that mark. So let's see, you know, we'll see, right? Okay. But speaking of RiSE, I have such a fond memory of it that, I don't know, let's see how I go about this. My first encounter with RiSE was actually when I visited TULAI, Filipinx American Student Success Program. I know that was a long title, but so I first checked in the front desk, and then as I was checking in, from the corner of my eye, I see these piles of papers, and it had that iconic light blue logo on it that said RiSE, and I was like, let me check this out. What is this all about? And then as I read it, I was like, okay, wow. It intrigued me, because like the paper didn't literally talk to me, but the spirit of RiSE spoke to me. Listen, all of you. So RiSE posed these questions that just intrigued me, like I said. Sorry, I get really nervous. Thank you. Okay.
You're awesome.
I love you too. Okay. So.
You're awesome.
Do you want to be involved in the betterment of this educational institution? Was one of them. Do you want to develop yourself as a leader by representing the student body? We understand that you have certain circumstances outside of just being a student, and in exchange for your service and effort, we actually want to compensate you for your hours. Realistically speaking, how cool is that, right? But wait, most importantly, get this, you all. RiSE asked this question: hi, student, how are you? How are you really doing? And that question that I got from RiSE, that's what resonated. That sincerity and that thoughtfulness. Maybe those weren't the exact words, but that's what I got from it, and that's what's important. That connection, I was like, yes, I'm all in. You all are so sweet. So that's what got me into RiSE.
Aren't they amazing? Oh, they're amazing. And that's just the first question. Okay. So so this question is for Hafsa and Brian specifically. So how would you describe the current student experience, your current student experience at CCSF?
So firstly, I would like to congratulate the City College community for finally getting a sign on the multi-use building. So there is an expectation of dysfunction at City College. I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. That reputation precedes City College. Like, new students come in expecting things to not work out for them. And it just happens at every level, unfortunately. I have a whole list of examples. So, for example, when you first register, and after you've done your student orientation and everything, you have to go to Conlin Hall, Statler Wing, like that section, right? And you go in and you visit the 15-minute counselor to sign up. So they have a welcome desk there, except the person at the desk was not very welcoming. This was my first experience at City College a couple weeks before school, the fall semester had started. Obviously this is the building where all the new students are going, like this is their first impression of the college. And I'm standing there because I'm not sure like where I'm supposed to go, and I mean the person at the welcome desk didn't even look up. Like, it's little things like that that just build up, and that's what our student experience is. Another time I was lost because I was supposed to visit some financial aid office or some building, and I'm standing there, there's classified staff walking by, faculty walking by, and nobody thinks, hey, let me help this student who is obviously confused and lost and doesn't know where to go. And there's just things like that where a little thoughtfulness really goes a long way. The truth of the matter is that City College is not made for students. It is made for the people who work here. For example, on the website, I was looking up information about the parking permits, and lo and behold, there was a step-by-step procedure for faculty parking permits, and then there was one line at the bottom that says, for student parking permits, please call the CCSF switchboard. Yeah. Another time, when I was getting hired for RiSE, you have to get your TB test, as part of the hiring process. So I went to Student Health Services in MUB for my calc class, which is in the Student Health Center. So I walk all the way to MUB with my friends, and I'm like, I'm very scared of vaccines. So I'm like, okay, it's gonna be fine. And I walk into MUB, and they're like, oh no, we don't do the TB test here. You have to go to Student Health Center. And I was like, really? Like, they have the same name. Like, how am I supposed to know the difference? Like, they're just small things like that literally just at every level, you constantly have to deal with those roadblocks. And my friends are looking at me like, are you telling me we have to walk all the way back to Student Health Center? Like, we just came back from there. There was another time, there's even things just within the classroom. My first semester here, my professor was announcing where we were going to be taking our final. And he was like, hey guys, it's in Rosenberg. Who knows where Rosenberg is? And so only half the class raised their hands. And he's like, oh my God, are you kidding me? How come only half of you know? And then he pulls out the campus map and he puts it on the projector and he's like, it's that building right there. So at this point, we're all cracking up because nobody uses the campus map. It's horrendous. So, yeah, and then later on, I was asking my friends, I was like, hey guys, like, where's Rosenberg? That's where my final is, like, and they were like, oh, it's just the library, like, you know, after the wellness center. And I was like, why didn't he just say that? Like, how am I supposed to know? That's my first semester here. There are just small things like that that really just, you know, they like build up, and after a while, you just become really discouraged. Like, you know, people here don't, you know, just because you've been working here for many years doesn't mean I know everything. You know, like a lot of people here just assume that that knowledge is transferred over to the students when it's really not. You know, yeah, I'll just stop there.
And Brian, before you get going, I just want to say that it takes a lot of courage to speak this truth out loud to a room full of employees of the college. Yeah? So my invitation is that we stay open-minded, open-hearted, to not take it personal, or was that me? I didn't do that. It was just a hard day. That we just hold it as what is true for your experience, and to know that you're not alone. So thank you. All right.
So Hafsa spoke a lot to the experience of the first semester student, and in my experience connecting with students who have been here for quite some time, the experience is one of more distress, particularly in times like this when the college is in a bit of a state of a crisis, when information is disseminated through the college and it reaches the students and it hasn't necessarily been confirmed or substantiated, the students go into a frenzy without concrete details. And so that's what that's what I realized last semester, and that's what I took note of last semester, was that, of course, you know, we're all up in arms trying to figure out what's going on, but students are really being, you know, really, what's the word I'm looking for? Galvanized without concrete details, and that is derailed people's progression. It is distracted people, and of course, our students need to be involved and be informed. So we need a more inclusive and more, a more direct form of communication. So city notes is one form, but we all know that it gets a little long and it gets a little packed. So students don't really read city notes from my experience talking to them. So if we can find some more direct form of communication, it will really impact the students in a positive manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so Darzell, this is for you. Have there been some positive developments in the past few years, including Free City? How has that affected you? There's been some positive stuff happening.
Oh yes, and like you said, Free City. I actually consider myself very fortunate and privileged even to just benefit from such an opportunity like Free City initiative, because even my mom says it's such a blessing. It's one less thing to worry about, and it's true, and I'm so thankful. But at the same time, people have also said, and I've also listened to them, and I've gathered that we do have Free City, but to what extent is it free? When we have books, other expenses that we have to worry about, so what does Free City entail? And is it free for everyone? And that's just a question to keep in mind. I don't think it's a bad idea, because it's more so an aspiration that we can have in the near future, or possibly, in the near future, we can probably make this happen. It's not a bad thing to think about. Free education for everyone, doesn't that sound cool? Yeah. Okay, that's it, yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, so Hafsa, let's start with you. What are some of the ways that CCSF is still being cost inhibitive, and what can be done about that from your opinion?
So definitely one of the most annoying things is when specifically professors do not use Canvas. I had a friend who was in a class and they made her buy an $80 software that was just like Canvas, only the professor didn't have to re-upload the quizzes and the tests to Canvas. That is extremely annoying and frustrating because it's $80 when you have Canvas, which is a free resource. And Canvas is also very accessible for students. It's actually, I really like it a lot. It has this really cool feature like in the grades where you can input like fake grades. So actually I was taking like an online class this summer and I didn't even have to do the essay portion for my final because I was able to input, if I get a 0% on my final, like what is my my final grade, and I still had an A. So in the long yeah, so in the long run, it's really helpful for students who may be struggling if they're taking a full course load. They can actually pick and choose what classes they really need to study for depending on certain grades for assignments. They can pick and choose what assignments they need to spend a lot of time for, which ones will impact their grades the most. So please, if you're not using Canvas, please start using it right away. I have had some professors who, they would give like the full like grade outline and hey, here's all the points and da-da-da-da-da. And then they would give like the graded assignments like 2 weeks before the class. Like, how am I supposed to calculate my grade if you're so late in grading? So please update grades regularly, use Canvas. It is a huge help to all of us. Another point I want to mention is if you know that you're not going to be using the books in your class the entire semester, please let students know if you can get it through the library. That way they can just rent it for a short period of time and they don't have to buy it. There's plenty of rental services online. There's Chegg, Amazon Prime. So please really let students know about these services. They're really important for saving money in the long run.
Thank you. Brian?
Piggybacking off of your last point about books, that's been a really cost inhibitive factor that seems to me can be resolved. Gearing classes towards affordability is just one way that we can center equity at the things that we're doing. So we have options like free OERs, open educational resources. Yeah, that's it. Yes, it's good stuff. I just recently took English 1A and my teacher geared the class towards that, and all I had to buy was a novel, which was about $5-10, and outside of that, all of our materials were covered by OERs. And then on top of that, we have the book loan program on campus. So if you're gearing your classes to be, designed around the books available within the book loan program, then students will, be able to afford that. And then from there, let's see, just the flexibility of working with students that might have an edition book that's, 1 or 2 editions older than the one that you're requesting, because in my experience, we've been asked to buy newer editions when really there have been a few page swaps, no real new material. So any chance that you can be a bit more flexible will really help the student.
Thank you, thank you. And let me ask you, yes, give them all the love. I love that you said OER. I don't use any textbooks in my classes, and it's a huge help for students, and I'm glad that you put that request out, and that you're reminding us of what it is to be a real student in real time, in real life, is that you are going to be making adjustments. Do your instructors, have you had any instructors who ask you for your feedback about how the class went and what you would like to see differently?
I had one professor.
Okay.
Yeah, one that I can think of.
All right.
Perhaps a couple, but there's definitely one professor that gave out surveys at the end of the class instruction semester.
Okay. So just, I think, a good invitation for all of us that we need to constantly be in communication with you about what we can do better. So thank you. So this last question, because one of the other ones here is, do you feel that there's proper guidance in the navigation? And I feel like you've already really spoken to that. I'm also mindful of the time. So, and if there are things then in our closing comments that you really want us to be thinking about, then let's come back to that. But for all three of you, are there any on-campus supports that you feel have really helped you in terms of your navigation, your experience, the success that you're already achieved? For all three of you.
All right, I'll go. So I mentioned the book loan program that has significantly cut the cost of my experience. I can instead of buying a $200 or $300 book, I can eat for the month. The Clipper Card Scholarship has been very important as well. And free printing within our different resource centers, that was something that was addressed to me by my English 1A teacher, because she knew specifically that we would be printing throughout her class. So she pointed out this resource at the very first day of class, knowing that this was something that we would need to succeed. So really nobody on campus knows what it's going to take to pass your class more than you do. So if you can really let students know exactly what they're going to need the first day, that'll set them up for success.
The informal network is what I really relied on during my time here. So my friends basically, and like people who came here like 5 years ago, like their advice still stands because CCSF hasn't changed in a while. So like just in terms of like, like good professors, like how to register, that kind of thing, that advice still stood, like remembering your CRN number, like for the old banner, that kind of thing, like it was still really helpful.
Get ready, CCSF, because this is my favorite topic. Resources. Where do I begin? Okay, just to name a few. Extended opportunity programs and services, disabled students programs and services, the Clipper Card Scholarship, the Foundation Promise Scholarship that is in partnership with Metro Transfer Academy, book loan, the food pantry, which is like the food shelf, the Rams food market, and the different resource centers and programs that we have on campus that caters different demographics and backgrounds here at CCSF. That's important for all of you to know, but not just you. The students themselves need to know about these, because when we look at resources and we detach the material meaning of what resources mean, and we extract the core value of what it can actually provide students, care, support, guidance, and love. CCSF, that's what you're giving. Students need to know about this, please. And you know what? I'm very fortunate, because if not for my involvement with RiSE, I probably would not have known about this beautiful thing that exists, and I didn't even know about it. It's called a Master's Resources List. So there's a link that you can access, provided by the Office of Student and Equity, which will be accessible to you all and anybody. But just, hit us up, hit me up, hit up the Office of Student Equity, hit up RiSE. Thank you.
I know we're moving into our close, so maybe final comments from all three of you.
Okay, this is gonna be like really long. I'm gonna try and make it short. So really quickly, I just wanted to go back to student experience and proper guidance and everything. So I had like a really mixed experience with counseling here. For whatever reason, I kept getting referred to academic counseling, even though what my main goal for being here is to transfer in 2 years. So I kept going to academic counseling like literally every couple of weeks during my first semester here. It was really difficult because I kept getting like different answers and I wasn't getting the proper information I needed. For example, no one referred me to the transfer center, which is in the science hall. Darzell actually referred me to that my second semester. And I wish, because when you go to academic counseling, there's like a check-in desk and they ask you, what are you gonna ask about? So even though I had told them I was asking about transferring, nobody said, hey, you should visit the transfer center. So passing on that information to new students is really important. I know that you guys get used to being asked all these questions all the time, but please remember, you're getting new students all the time, and it's really important to just keep asking those questions. I would have saved a lot of time if someone had just told me earlier. And with just one specific example, in academic counseling, I took a lot of APs in high school and I wasn't getting straight answers on whether they would transfer over or not. And it wasn't until I got to the transfer center that they showed me, hey, it's a different AP chart for every UC, so it really depends on which colleges you apply to. So please just keep that in mind, communication is really important. Another note I had was, I forgot my point, so Brian, you can.
So final notes for me, I think to really impact the student experience, we need to take a look at revamping the matriculation process and making it a bit less disorganized and a bit more cohesive, and really baking in student advocacy into that process. So I would bargain that the majority of students have no idea what PGCs are, but we desperately need students on these committees. So if they're being educated about these things during the matriculation process and understanding that there are opportunities for them to input into the ongoings of the campus, then they'll be more apt to do so. And if they understand that there are opportunities on campus like RiSE where they can be paid for their input, and opportunities like SMAC where they can be paid for their input, then they will understand that they can prioritize themselves a bit more and prioritize their needs and really express their needs in an impactful manner. And from there, I just want to talk about how, we can really bridge the gaps between the different sections of the campus, whether it be between administration and classified staff, students and administration, students and classified staff. It all comes down to the hard work that Veronica so aptly mentioned, and just having patience and compassion for one another. I want to tell a story about a meeting that I was in just this summer, planning for welcome events that were supposed to take place, the first few weeks of school. And there was some difficulty planning the events with the different resource centers that they were hoping to be hosted at. So the administrator in charge of planning these events said, simply, we're not going to do them because I haven't heard from these other staff members. So that lack of flexibility is something that can ripple back to the students. The students did not fail in this situation, but the students will be failed if we are not flexible with one another, compassionate with one another, and remembering to put the students first. And so from there, we really need to invest in the day-to-day support that the students need, because simply getting them registered is not going to get them graduated. And so if they don't have that day-to-day support, they will be harmed along the way, and they might be turned away from the process. They might, elongate their process, and there's just a whole host of things can go wrong if they don't have that proper day-to-day support and a proper network to access. So I just want to leave you with that. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I'm gonna make this quick again. Okay, so there are other smaller changes that can be made to really benefit all the students. Creating online appointment systems for all the counseling centers, because every time I called academic counseling to create an appointment for my ed plan, nobody picked up the phone. Things like that. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Can I make a quick announcement of that? So there will be, the students are going to be joining us again, or joining you again at 10:45 for a follow-up session with questions and hearing more input about what can be done and recommendations. Will that be in this room? Is that and that will be in this room? Okay, perfect. So I'm wondering if maybe we can hold those, because I think, is our time up? Yeah? Perfect. So you want to finish your thought, and then we'll have Darzel make her final closing?
Yeah, I just wanted to say kindness goes a really long way in making those personal connections. One of my friends started skipping classes a lot because she was falling behind, and when my professor emailed her and said, hey, where are you, come back to class, she actually started coming back to class. So again, just piggybacking off of what Veronica said earlier, those personal connections are really important. They keep students invested, so please reach out to your students, have conversations with them, talk to them. It's really important, and you guys are all important here. The work you do is amazing, so please be kind to each other, be kind to your students. The atmosphere, the political atmosphere is such that things are just so difficult for everyone nowadays, so that little kindness goes a really long way.
So I'm going to try to wrap this up as clearly and as fast as I can. And I want to say thank you for all of you guys who are listening and staying right now. We really appreciate it. But again, I have a hope for CCSF, and we know that this institution can become an even better college. We know it, for sure. But the thing is, where do we start? Information. I could give a list of concrete details, but one that I can probably say as an example, one time when I was when I was taking a summer class, there was this poster, and I was like, whoa, it's so colorful, it's so catchy. Let me check it out. And there was this link, right? And I clicked on, I tried to search it up, but it wasn't working. Okay, mind you, an average person would try 2 to 3 times, but I gave you guys like 2-3 second chances. I tried 5 times, it still wasn't working. How discouraging is that, CCSF? Please keep that in mind. Those are some of just the, I guess, informational issues that we can work on. But aside from that, I mean, because I can even talk about online website, but let's just not. Okay, but maybe later. But conversation. Places like these, safe spaces, in order to make conversation is just as important. But how do we get to that point? Connections. Connections are just as important. And we can't make connections without that sense of vulnerability. And you can't get vulnerability if you're not being genuine. You have to be honest with yourself. Reflect a little bit, like, what can we do better, right? And as we dig, we're actually going to find, the why. Why do we even do what we do? Why are we here? As an institution, are we not here to serve the student body, CCSF? And we get it. We've been talking about how we can improve. Yes, there are a lot of things to improve, honestly. But if we don't start talking about it, we can't come to that point for us to become an even better college, if you come to think about it. So now is the time, CCSF. Let's wake up. City College of San Francisco, mind you, we are in San Francisco. San Francisco is not known for keeping up with the times, but rather being ahead of it. Now is the time, CCSF, and pardon me, or not, but for the shameless plug, I think it's time for us to rise. Thank you, CCSF. You guys are awesome. Thank you for listening.
Give them a round of applause. Get on your feet. Let's rise. Give them some love. Woo!
Well, we can let Student Trustee Daly talk for a bit.
So we just wanted to show some appreciation for the lead coordinator of RiSE, Michelle Simotis. She's been a great support to students.
Equity and non-credit.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Let me see. Where did it?
Where did it go, huh?
Oh, I'm not sure.